Hello, everyone. This is Sebastian Traeger, Managing Director at Reliability.com, and welcome back to another episode of Reliability 4.0. As always, we're on a mission to help make the world a more reliable place. And today, I am excited to be joined by our guest, Ron Norris. Ron is the retired Director of Innovation at Georgia Pacific. He's also doing some really interesting things in AI that he's going to share about now. Ron, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you today.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here. How did you hear about me, actually, Sebastian? How did that come about?
We saw that you spoke at Connected Manufacturing, and we wanted to invite you onto our podcast. We thought you had some really interesting things to say, especially as it relates to AI and manufacturing, which is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about. So give us a little bit of a background of your work at Georgia Pacific, what you did as the Director of Innovation, and what you're doing now. You mentioned a really interesting company that you're starting now.
Sure. So first of all, a lot of people think Georgia Pacific is a train company, and that's the Southern Pacific. Georgia Pacific is a large manufacturing company and manufacture a whole lot of the toilet paper, paper towels, napkins, and paper goods that are sold in the United States, as well as lumber and plywood and OSB. So it's 130 manufacturing facilities with about 30,000 people in operations. And so I did that for 12 years and then retired in November. I had a tremendous time at Georgia Pacific. It's a really fun company. They're always looking for good people. So if you're out there and if you're looking for a good place to go talk to them.
Let's camp on it for a second. What do you do as the Director of Innovation there? What does that look like at, obviously a large company making products that have been around for a long time? What types of innovations are you tasked with bringing about?
There's different groups of innovation. There are daily groups that have to innovate things on a daily basis. There are product innovation groups. My job was to kind of work 3 to 5 years out and help us innovate things that were going to keep us in business in the position that we were in, if not better. That was my job for 12 years. Luckily, I got to work across all of the divisions of Georgia Pacific. There's three main ones: packaging, building products, paper goods. And so it keeps you quite busy. It was a very rewarding thing. So that's that. And when I retired,
before that, is there any particular innovation you're allowed to talk about that you kind of had your hands in that you're especially proud of?
Yeah, so there was a lot of product innovation. The one that I spent the last 4 years working on is actually capturing knowledge of our subject matter experts and using that knowledge in a computer as well as data of where that computer is actually working. And it's called Causal AI, and it understands cause and effect. And that's one of the things I was going to talk about today anyway. So we can go ahead and jump into that. The thing is, I did a study back in 2015, and of the 4 largest groups, 4 largest facilities in our organization. And it said that we were going to have 45% of our workforce that was going to be 65 years of age or older in 2023. And this was in 2015. So that's worrisome. That is an issue where, holy cow, we've got people that used to work for us for 25 and 30 years. And before that, their mother and their dad worked for us a lot of times. And so that's a lot of knowledge to walk out the door. We needed to find a way to capture that. And so I went looking everywhere I could look in the Northwest and in the Northeast, the big AI companies, just the big computer companies, trying to find somebody that can say, hey, we can help you capture that knowledge, and then we can join that with data to help people make decisions. Almost to a point, I was told that, look, we've not really heard of that. And this was 2016 or so. But if you'll give us all your data and you'll be sure it's good, clean data, then we'll write you a solution that'll solve your problem. But the problem with that is that I didn't know what my problem were going to be until the problem happens. Okay. And so that's a point solution is what they were trying to sell me. And I wasn't looking for that. I said, no, I'm looking for something that I can put into a division of the company that understands how that part works and expose the data that it needs to operate there that can help us make better decisions faster. And especially with new employees. Because these new employees are coming in. I don't know if you've seen this problem. It's happening everywhere. I'm sure you have. New employees are coming in, and we're expecting them, believe it or not, to work as efficiently as the people that are retiring that have 25 and 30 years experience. And it's not going to happen. And so turnover starts to increase generally. I have a lot of friends in big companies, and it's happening everywhere because these new employees are coming in, and we're saying, hey, go with Mark. Mark will help you understand what you're supposed to do. Mark's been here. He's an expert. And so now Mark, who has his own job to do, has to teach me what to do. And what's happening a lot of times is that these new employees they don't have the stick power that we
Right.
did. I'm old now, so back when I was younger. And so it's more
That
transient.
knowledge transfer
Right?
is not happening, the way it should. And I know you spoke on this at Connected Manufacturing. You spoke specifically on causal AI across disciplines. And I know
Yeah.
this is something you're really passionate about. So, kind of if the problem you were solving was this, new workforce, what are kind of the three big ideas you would say coming out of that presentation or kind of your thinking on this topic?
Well, I had to prove that it would work first.
Okay.
Right. Let me just explain kind of sort of how it does work. It has three things that make it causal. And causal, when I say causal, some people think it's casual. It's not casual, it's causal. And causal means it understands cause and effect. It's root cause. What's causing this and what's the effect going to be? And so it has three causal models that it uses to help us make better decisions faster. The first one is what we call the principal causal model. And it's not really technical here, but the principal causal model is more of the theory. It's the rules and the science of wherever it is that it's working in. And so for me, I had to teach it supply chain. We fed it college courseware and we fed it white papers from our favorite consultants. And so it understood the theory of supply chain, just like a college graduate would. The theory is really good, but if you remember coming out of college, we knew theory and we'd go get a job and we didn't really know how these people do their jobs. The second model is taught by subject matter experts. And so when I was doing our first proof of concept, we did that with order management. We would get thousands of orders coming in, and a lot of those were getting kicked out, Enterprise Resource Planner, the ERP. And so those people would have to physically touch over 90% of the orders to find out what's wrong with this, how do I fix it? So we had the top 10 people that were subject matter experts in that group teach it. Like a new employee. It's like, here's what you'll see every day. Here's the data that you look at. Here's what you're looking to do. And so these people became mentors to the system, right? To this causal AI. It's like, what do you see every day and how do you solve those problems? What do you see occasionally? What data do you look at? Why do you look at that data? What is it telling you on how to solve these problems? What's the hardest thing you've ever solved? 10 subject matter experts, not one, because one could be biased. You want to have more than one teach it. And so 10. So now when it comes to a problem that it doesn't know how to solve, it looks into the knowledge and it says, okay, here's the problem. It could be anything in operations. It could be anything in finance. It could be anywhere in the company. Here's the problem. And the knowledge then comes back and says, okay, well, here's how you could solve that problem. There's a couple of different ways. And they're basically hypotheses. And then it does the scientific method because it's got data coming in to tell it what's actually happening now. So the knowledge tells you what's ideal, and the data tells you what's actually happening. The causal AI says, first of all, it says, well, here's a gap. I need to solve this gap. Here's what's ideal. We need to get to here, and here's what's actually happening. How am I going to solve that gap? What's the root cause? And so from a cause and effect, it comes up with several hypotheses on how to meet our KPIs. And if it can solve the problem, we've said that once you trust it, you go ahead and solve it. But if you can't reach the KPIs, go back to Sebastian and tell Sebastian, hey, here was the problem. Here's the data I looked at. I couldn't solve it 100%, so I'm going to bring it to you. Here's what I recommend and here's why. And so now when an employee looks at something, it has the understanding of what do I need to know? When do I need to know it? What should I do about it and why? And it's the why that nobody's ever had before. Because in the past, we've always been having to correlate things in our own brain to come up with a solution. Go ahead.
Now, how much data? So I'm hearing you say this is an AI system to basically look at other common problems that might match the one that you're looking to solve, and it gives you some causal information. Without getting super technical, but just staying at a pretty high level, the challenge with any AI system, of course, is the data. If you don't have good data or you haven't seen a problem before, you can only get so accurate. How much information did somebody need to input to get some decent level of solution to a problem?
From the knowledge part, and then we'll get to the data, but from the knowledge part, Sebastian, it learns all the theory and the science. For instance, we taught it how to make all of the SKUs, over 300. SKUs. It knows. So we also taught it how to do procurement, right? To do procurement, it needed to understand how procurement works. But first of all, it also needed to understand demand planning and production planning. How do we make all of our SKUs? What's the percentage of the recipes of all those different products that go together? And so it understands all the rules like that. Right. And it sounds like this would take it a long time to learn, but it doesn't. It learns it very quickly. It's really fast. So now we've taught it how the subject matter experts work in this department. And then you expose the data that all of the people that work in that department get. And so the data, what's different? That's a good question. Everybody's gotten really good with data. Right?
Okay.
It's pretty good. But the problem with data is that you are making decisions based on curves. It could be here, it could be the decision over here, and it could be the decision over here. We're also making decisions on correlations. And so data is good and we need that. And so we're still going to use that. But what we've added now is the knowledge. So we don't have to make decisions based on correlations. We're making decisions based on knowledge. And then a lot of people say, well, is it like ChatGPT? Is it going to make hallucinations? And it's like, no, there's no hallucinations, because it's making decisions based on knowledge and real data. And then it actually does the scientific method on those hypotheses to say, okay, I'm going to prove this one right or prove this one wrong. That's what it does. We do use language models, but only to communicate with it. So that's the only thing that the language model has, which is what ChatGPT and Grok and all of those other things are, based on a language model. But we basically use it to change the English language into programming language so we can get information in and out. It sounds like it's very complicated, but it's actually not.
Give us a use case. So like how, again, and maybe you could tie it to a use case a demo example that you would show.
Sure.
Maybe it's Georgia Pacific to help with adoption.
We did order management, and we taught it how to intercept orders before it goes to those orders go to the ERP. And so it intercepts the orders and it grooms those orders to go through as close to 100% touchless as possible. And it was taught how to do that from the subject matter experts. And we exposed the data that it needs to do that with. When we were first rolling out this really expensive new ERP, we were having issues with a low rate of touchless orders. And so we taught it how to do that. We put it in there as a proof of a proof case, and it increased touchless orders 10x. So it went from single digits to 90% touchless. So we thought, well, this was a success. Let's go try to do something that's going to really make a difference. Let's go do procurement. One of the things that this has, because it has the knowledge and it has the data, you now have almost unlimited simulators inside of it that you can actually go use as well, right? You can ask a question. You can say, what would happen if a hurricane came to the Gulf of Mexico and we had to close down 2 mills and a distribution center? How would we realign our supply chain so that we could be sure that our customers get what they need to get until we can reopen? And you can go simulate that. So the system actually has simulators in it too. When we taught it procurement, it figured out not just the demand planning and the production planning and how operators actually work on the machines, but it looked at all of the suppliers. Here's one of the things that it said to us is that, hey, we're buying this one supplier and shipping this product in by ocean that's going to go from a boat to a train to a truck to come to our facility. And it cost, I'm just going to give a round number. It's a fake number, say $1,000 a ton, because that's what we've chosen, because it was the least expensive that we could buy that's going to make our product. Good, fine. It's also got simulators that it uses inside of itself. So it spins up like a digital twin on its own. And it's looking at all the different suppliers and it says, hey, hold on, there's this other supplier. It's more expensive, so we haven't chosen it. It's like, say, $1,200 a ton, more expensive. But because I understand how all of our machines work and how all of this raw material flows through the machines, we should get somewhere between 8 to 12% more runnability, usage, and yield if we bought this other supplier, B, that was $1,200 a ton instead of $1,000 a ton.
It's good.
This is eye-opening, so let's go find out. And it turned out it wasn't 8 to 12, it was actually 4 to 10, but it was pretty doggone close. And so we were able to increase runnability, usage, and yield, depending on which facility that it was, by 4 to 10%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's huge.
So Ron, give us a sample of what you're working on now. I love hearing about Causal AI and that work, but help us understand the work you're doing now and what field you're in.
So I'm a consultant now for medium and large companies, ranging from manufacturing to any kind of industrial type, and also oil and gas. One of the things that's most important is capturing knowledge, because it's bad everywhere. And so making this, I don't want to say a co-pilot because that's already been used, right? But it's basically your own personal agent that helps you understand where you're working, what the problems are, what you should do about it, and why. And so if you're a new employer, even an existing employee, the idea is for us to make better decisions faster. And so imagine if you're a new employee, you have this agent that works for you and it understands how long you've been there. It understands your capabilities and your capacity. It gives you learning and development guidance. And when it comes to helping make a decision, it says, hey, here's the problems that you're going to be working on today. Here's what's wrong, and here's why it's wrong, and here's what you should do about it. So it's taking those subject matter experts, Sebastian, and bringing them now to me. They're actually mentors. So I have my supervisor. I have other people that work with me that can help. And then I also have this system that says, here's what's wrong, here's what's going on, here's what we should do about it and why. It's a connected worker platform that we're working on pretty hot and heavy right now.
That's great. Well, that sounds great. My last question, just, because our company focuses on root cause analysis, I'm curious your thoughts on how AI is changing root cause analysis. Obviously, a lot of what you shared is applicable, but I'm just, just on a final note on that.
One response to it, that imagine your reliability engineers, and you've done this too with the stuff that the AI that you have, that says to you, Sebastian, I work with you, and here's an issue. I've looked at the data. Here's the data that I looked at. Here's the cause, and here's the effect of that's going to happen soon if we don't go fix this. So instead of looking behind, it's looking ahead to help us make these decisions faster before the problem happens. That's really how AI is changing the game here, because in the past, we've had to have an event happen and then we go fix it.
That's good. I'm definitely going to want to keep in touch with you about the future of the industry. And I think you've got so many interesting things happening. And I love that you're thinking so much about AI and how it can be used, especially in the manufacturing space. So appreciate all your thoughts there. All the listeners here, we've been talking to Ron Norris, a former director of innovation at Georgia Pacific. And I would say
I have a company called Advanced Innovation Management, Sebastian, AIM. So my website is AIM, AIM.
And I would say anybody listening who's looking to integrate AI into what they're doing in general, I think Ron is going to be a tremendous source of information. Obviously, we could talk a lot longer about this because it's such a big part of the field. But again, this podcast, is about just helping engineers and really anyone take steps to use technology better to solve problems. Our company, of course, helps people solve problems in root cause analysis. And so if you're looking for RCA training or resources, check out reliability.com. If you're looking for a software platform that is AI powered to help you do root cause more easily, check out easyrca.com. That's all we have today for the time. We appreciate you joining us as we are on a mission together to make the world a more reliable place, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks again, Ron, for all your time.
My pleasure. See you soon.